Hello, hello, folks, and welcome to Relationships and ROI, where our goal is to help you strengthen, build, and nurture your relationships with your ideal audience so you can have positive ROI in your business. All right. I am Mike Gingerich, and I'm a digital marketer, president of Digital Hill Agency, co-founder of TabSite, podcaster at the Halftime Mike podcast, all things digital. I'm also a founder of a nonprofit called I Give Global, seeking to help those around the world with great potential but little opportunity. And our third co-host, Jessica Phillips from Now Marketing Group, is out today. So it's just going to be Ravi, Shukle, and I flying solo today. So let me introduce Ravi to you as well. Ravi is a social media online customer service expert. He loves to help businesses online effectively manage their customers using social media. He's also the founder of the Secrets of 5-Star Service, an online membership site to help business owners boost their customer loyalty and sales. Welcome, Ravi, today.
Yeah, great to be here. I know we haven't got Jessica on today, but we've got a great topic, so I'm sure we're going to give all our listeners tuned in a ton of value.
Yes, yes. So, I mean, basically, folks, we're here every week at this same time, which is 2 p.m. Eastern. And Ravi, what are you in London? You are 5 hours, 7 o'clock?
Yeah, so it's 7 p.m. here on London time, though.
London time. And Jessica from Now Marketing Group and the relationship marketing system is out in Las Vegas this week, enhancing some of her knowledge and education, interacting with some colleagues out there. So we are going to be flying solo today. We want to welcome everybody here. And our topic today, how to find out what your customers really think. What do they really think? And ways to go about that. Because, again, when we talk about building your business, we come at it from that core standpoint of relationships matter. And so knowing what your customers think is a part of that, building that solid, long-term, lasting relationship. And that can make a big difference over the course of time, from the first sale to years later. So knowing what they really think is important. And we want to talk about ways, particularly digital ways, that you can begin to do that. So Ravi, do you want to dive in, get any more background on that you want to lend before we dive in?
Sure. So when we're talking about finding out exactly what your customers think, especially on, let me grab the mic here, especially on social media, it's important to realize that the guessing work has actually totally disappeared. So what used to be research and analysis needed to find out what your customers think is now available to businesses in real time on social media. And that's kind of what we're going to be obviously covering today as well, on how you can use those conversations that are spiraling online about your business as actual feedback, and how you can use that to find out what they really think. So so we've got obviously a different range of topics that highlight that area of finding out what they think. But I think obviously one of the first main ones would be to appreciate just, I guess, social listening as an overall theme. So while it might sound technical, all it simply means is to pay attention to what people are saying and where they're saying it about your business or your industry. So if you can have that insight, then you can obviously start to hone in on what they're saying and discover more about your particular business as well.
Yes. Yeah. And I think with taking social listening just, a step further. So for myself, I use a tool like Hootsuite for social listening. So that way I can monitor at mentions on Twitter, for example. I can set up a listening filter on, for hashtags so that you can take a look at people mentioning you. It's a way that using something like Hootsuite as well, you could get all your comments from your Facebook pages and that type of thing in one spot. Now, again, there's other ways to listen, because just using the Facebook Pages app, for example, you can be notified whenever there's a notification that somebody's posted on your page. But this is broader than your page when I'm talking about listening. It's things that are out there about you online. I mean, there's other tools, even Google Alerts is a method that you can set up just to try to get information that way. But it's setting those pieces up so that you're kind of monitoring any online chatter and news about your business, so that you can respond to it, but what is the sentiment? And I was thinking of an example recently, and that was with airlines. So again, airlines and hotels have been pretty early adopters of this type of social listening. They've found some value in that. Some of the Marriotts and airlines, Southwest, JetBlue, some of those are doing a pretty good job with these listening pieces. So they're monitoring that. They have people kind of monitoring and then trying to respond, to reach out to those folks. But it's something that we can do at any level just by a simple tool to set up and monitor that way. But that's a good way to get sentiment that's out there. You're not necessarily asking for it. This is just what is on the surface level occurring, talking about your business.
Yeah, exactly. I think that's a good point as well. And also, when we talk about social listening, I think another important area to highlight, especially when we're talking about looking at mentions and where people are talking about you, is it's not always going to be your customers tagging your brand on social media. So while the social savvy amongst us will be able to maybe do a bit of a research behind what the tag is for the specific company, a lot of the time we just like to type it in. So we'll rather type in the word Pizza Hut rather than pizza_hut, for example. So in that sense, social listening becomes very important, because the majority of your feedback you won't even notice in the first place, especially on somewhere like Facebook, where tagging hasn't really taken off in terms of notifying brands when you've got mentions. So keywords when you get mentions. You can use things like on Facebook, like graph search, to find out, but having the social listening tools as well is going to be a great way to find out where people are talking about you, but also highlight all those conversations where they haven't officially tagged you. Hootsuite you mentioned was one. Another one which I mentioned quite a bit on these blabs is mention.com. I'll put that again in the comments. And again, it's just an easy way to find out what people are saying about you on your website, your blogs, and your social channels without spending hours and hours of filtering through.
Yes. All right. And again, we want to go into a few other ways that you can find out what your customers really think. But driving back to that point of why is it important? And this can drive product development. It can drive long-term client satisfaction, and it can help drive innovation, and it can help drive, just basically sales in your company. So these are important things, because what is out there and what people are sharing, becomes just critical to your long-term business success. And I know that Marcus Sheridan, who's a great content marketer, he always talks about finding out what questions your potential customers are asking. So if somebody's calling in, even if they're calling on the phone, what questions are they asking, and make sure you answer those. So that can even drive your content marketing. But we want to talk about how do you find out what your customers are really thinking. And I'll go Marcus Sheridan's route with the second one, and that is pay attention to your blog comments. Find out what your customers really think by opening up your blog to have comments, and then being responsive to those, but paying attention to what those are. Because if there's a few questions that come in and they're in the same vein, maybe that's a topic that you really need to address further. That's something you need to do with your product. So just the comments that come in on your blog post is another way to find out what your customers really think. How about you, Ravi?
Yeah, that's a great point. I'd probably add to that and say, not only will it let you know what customers think, but also help you highlight your more loyal customers. So your feedback becomes more valuable based on how much the individual customer knows about your business. So if you've got a loyal customer that's been with you for 12 or 20 months, they're going to have a lot more valuable insight and feedback compared to someone who's maybe read your blog or read your services maybe for a couple of weeks. So I think that blog comments and even social media comments, you really want to help pinpoint who those repeat people, customers are that are commenting on a regular basis, and really pay attention to their feedback, because they're the ones who are kind of experiencing your business day in, day out. And that is the feedback that's really going to change things for you as well.
Yep. Okay, so that was blog comments. You want to dive into another one, how to find out what your customers really think?
Sure. So you've obviously, so we've got our blog comments. I think another underrated one is, although we're talking about social media, it's also your website. So through your website, you're able to find out where your customers are visiting, what pages they're visiting, and how they're interacting with your site. That's still feedback. So if you found that you've got maybe 25 or 100 views on your homepage, but only 2 clicks on one of your email signups, again, that's still called customer feedback. It doesn't have to be specifically what people say, but it's sorry, it can also be what they do. So by taking advantage of noticing the analytics and what they're actually doing on your site, and even on your social channels, if you have 2 likes and 1 comment compared to 20 and 5, what's working and what isn't. So I think pay attention to the activity of your social media community and your online community, as well as what they say.
Yeah. No, I like that. And, I use Google Analytics. And so it's an opportunity to kind of dive into analytics and, check things like the bounce rate, so how many people came in on this page and left on that page, well, if that's, too high, that's telling me some things about, I may need to shift some content there. I can also tell, where they're coming from to come to my site. And of course, as you said, top content. So those are key ways to find out through their actions what they're thinking. And I really like that point. I think that's a good way to find out what your customers are really thinking. Another simple one is with your email marketing. And I think that oftentimes we feel like email is maybe a little bit more of a push mechanism, or we're trying to get information out. But it's also an opportunity to gather feedback. And I know that Chris Brogan, you're probably familiar with that name. Chris Brogan really does this well with his owners groups and things like that, where he sends out a weekly email, and he's very intentional about offering people the opportunity to reply and to ask him, a question or give him feedback and to converse with him. So he's sending it out to a number of thousands of people. So that's a mass email, but he is taking the time to say, ask me a question, give me feedback, and I will respond to you. And he's getting, valuable feedback and really building some loyalty that way through email marketing. Questions?
Yeah, I think that's a good point with email, because obviously it's a more one-to-one relationship, because you're sending, even though you're sending out to a list, which your customers obviously know and your list appreciates, they're not the only one receiving it, but the way he writes the messages, or the way you would write the messages as a business, is more personalized. So we understand that there is software to add the names in and things like that, but the way you approach it can still be very personal in terms of asking for feedback or even their opinion as well. So I think that's another great way to establish rapport and obviously get feedback, is to ask for feedback. I think that's the kind of key highlight again. So it doesn't have to be what we just notice on a day-to-day basis. You can also come out with it and simply ask, what do you think of either a promotion, product, service, or even if it's existing customers, you can ask if there's anything you could improve. So I think taking that on board is definitely going to be key.
Yep. Now, I think that another, kind of going back to your website analytics, but maybe you have a product-based site. Maybe you have some, a few products, multiple products with some e-commerce or, some other type of thing. You have those listed. And by tracking analytics on what is your most, number one, it would be to track, what is your most sold product. So there can be, if you have, 3 products and the third one is by far going, what is it about that one that is different from the other 2 that is giving you feedback that way. And also, I think if you, with subscription-based, I mean, I know we've done this with TabSite, or other e-commerce products, that you can kind of measure A/B tests with some different types of discounts and things like that. So if we offered a 14-day free trial or a 30-day free trial, what kind of differences do we see there? Or if we offered what was the threshold? If we offered a 25% discount for 3 months, or if we offered 50% for a month. What was the differences in the thresholds of people saying, I want to try that, I want to participate with that. So those are ways to run some tests and see what kind of feedback you're getting to learn from your customers, what they're responding to.
Yeah, exactly. I think it's taking the approach of utilizing all the communications you have with your customers. So not just your social, not just your email, not just your website, but collectively as well, because you want to make the experience seamless throughout. And obviously that feedback needs to be congruent throughout all your communication channels. So if your website's having issues, you also need to look at your social channels, and you also need to look at your blog and your email to make sure you're delivering that consistent experience. Otherwise, there would be no point having a great social channel, but then poor support when it came to your website. So I think managing those expectations as well is going to be another way that you can obviously help meet your customers' demands, because we're talking about customer feedback or finding out what they really think. But if you're able to meet their needs in the first place or listen to this feedback, then over time you will find that the kind of comments that are coming in are less about what you could improve and more about maybe suggestions and ideas, because your customers use your product or service or are in the realm of deciding whether they need a product or service like yours. So they're going to have the more creative ideas that you can adapt at your company. And I think the companies that are winning today are the ones that listen to what their customers have to say and think outside the box to create that solution. And I think that's one of the main reasons why Kickstarter and those kind of projects that people put out are working so well, is because they've taken an idea and they've run with it, and all they're asking for is funding for people who believe in the idea. So the biggest example of customer feedback is something like a Kickstarter or crowdfunding campaign, because you can see the cash value from what people think about your product or service. And then a lot of these times they'll say, oh, we might need to launch in a month's time, and you'll find they'll often hold back because they've got feedback from people saying it's not ready yet, or they want extra features, and then they'll work hard to implement these before the release. So I think something like Kickstarter or crowdfunding is a great way to get that feedback. What do you think about that, Mike?
Yeah, no, I think that's a great example to add, and I think that's kind of a newer model that's gained some traction here, definitely in the last year, 2 years kind of thing. But it really is a way to test an idea. I've heard of authors, basically haven't written the book yet, but put it out on Kickstarter to kind of test the idea, and to see if it has merit, see if it has value, to see if people will buy into it, and kind of based on that, response is their key to dig in and finish that, or keep going with that. So absolutely, I think Kickstarter is a new technology type way to test out what customers want.
Exactly.
How about beyond Kickstarter? Any other thoughts on what you can do to figure out what your customers really think, Ravi?
Yeah, I think another thing to pay attention to is actually to listen to the feedback. It's all well and good looking at the comments and seeing what people are saying, but without actioning it, you're not actually going to be able to grow your business. Now, there's a whiskey brand called, I think Marker's Mark, I believe, and they had on their bottles, they had, I believe it was 70% proof for the particular type of whiskey. Now, they actually had an update which said we're reducing that to something like 60 or 40% proof. And the community then responded in the uproar saying it's going to, the flavor will change. This is not what you guys stand for. It's not what we're used to. And the barrage of comments then came in. And what ended up happening is they took that on board. And within a couple of weeks, actually, or even sooner than that, they actually released a statement sooner to say, we've taken your feedback on board and we're now sticking with our usual 70% proof. And you'll still continue to see this on all our product lines. So again, taking action on that was a big win for them, because if they look to cut costs or whatever their reasons were and reduce that percentage, then you'll find a lot of business lost as well. So I think listening to or taking action is probably the biggest thing when you do take this feedback on board.
Okay. Yep. I definitely agree with that. I think showing a actionable result to that, it makes me think of social media, and one of the big a gap point can be not responding to comments. and showing that you've heard. And that's you think of somebody's posting on Facebook, and somebody that there's a comment from potential customer out there, and it goes unanswered, or it goes too long unanswered, and so that'll cut down on future comments. That cuts down on future interaction. So I think that you demonstrating a posture of listening and responding and wanting to hear cultivates that's on social, so that becomes expected, understood, valued, and more people. It can be that kind of snowball effect. You need to get that started, and the more that gets started, it can be seen, and the more that people will understand this is a pathway that they're going to use to give you input.
Exactly. I just have one question on the back of that. What would you say, in your personal or professional, I guess, opinion, what would be a good response time for business owners to aim for? I mean, I know it's a general question, but how would you approach that?
Yeah, I think that's that's a tough one. I think that you always aim to keep it down as low as you can, and that's within reason. I think that I've seen studies. How recent have those been? I think it was last year. A study came out that said that consumers really expect it to be in 10 minutes or less. Okay, and then others have said that if you can at least do it within 20 minutes, but if they thought if it was more than 30 minutes, it was too long. Now again, there's some reason on that. If it's 1 a.m., hopefully there's some leeway for responding a little bit later, that you don't have. Now again, maybe you're depending on what your product service is, you may need to have 24-hour service, and if you're serving people all around the globe, so there's different time zones involved, but hopefully there's some flex for those. But I think that the keeping that time frame down as much as you can. If you can get there within 10 minutes, that's very helpful. And even if you can just say, maybe you're a small business owner and you're managing the Facebook page, you're out, you got to do a delivery or whatever it is, but your phone buzzes and there's a question. Even within that 10 minutes, you can simply respond and say, hey, just wanted you to know I got this, and I will follow up once I finish this delivery and have time. I mean, I think that goes a long way. People understand that.
Yeah, I think that comes down to just acknowledging their comments in the first place. I think a lot of reasons customers are angry on social media isn't necessarily to do with the company itself, but it's just to do with the way they're being treated. So like you said, if you're taking the time out to acknowledge it, even if it is after hours or it has been longer than normal, then you say to that customer that, we are going to take a little while, but we are looking into it. That simple acknowledgement means they're going to be a bit more patient because they understand why there's a delay. And obviously B, that you've taken the time out to listen to them. So you haven't waited an hour to get back with a solution. You said, we're looking into it and here's your response. I think, you're right. I think it's very subjective in terms of what the ideal time to respond is. In an ideal world for the customer, there wouldn't be such thing as too quick. They'd want it in real time if they could, right? Yeah. But speaking from behind the scenes, if you can have those processes in line where you, like you mentioned, you flag up the comments via either Hootsuite or Mention that we talked about, you've got a process to track them, then obviously all those things together are going to be helping you to reduce those response times because it helps you manage it more fluently as well. And also with customer feedback, another key way that we can use social and obviously websites as well is surveys. So the difference between posting a social media update saying, what can I improve, compared to a survey is you can be more specific in a survey. So you can say, would you like A, B, C, or D to be improved, or which feature would you like us to announce, or where do you think we can specifically improve? Again, giving them those options just allows you to explore different areas and find out what your customers really think.
Yeah, no, I think surveys are huge, and I think that they're not that hard to create and deploy. I know that obviously there's SurveyMonkey and those types of tools.
Yeah.
And there can be other ones that are even simpler. I mean, again, I'll come back to this little tool quickly. I've mentioned it a few times before, but we've come out with this tool called Waftio, WAFTIO.com, that you can deploy in your website, and you can deploy it as a little widget in the corner, or as a pop-up, or embed it in a page. And Waftio allows you to kind of create that little survey so that you could ask those few questions. Maybe you want to ask, top 3 questions, and you want to ask that to visitors across your website. You could easily deploy that in a little pop-up, and that's a simple thing to do to get some feedback and to interact with some people there. So I'll look, and yeah, you got that Waftio right there. And so that's surveys, and there's multiple ways on your website, on a link to another one, options.
Exactly. And then just to kind of pivot a little bit away from the traditional, I guess you'd say, online side of things, where we talk about finding out what customers want. When you do get on that phone call, or you are at trade events, or you do go to networking events, the in-person connection to get feedback is also very valuable, because you get to find out, you get the feedback instantaneously. So you ask someone, what did you think about your recent order, or even a promotion we ran? You'll find out in real time, right in front of them, what they actually thought, and you can read their body language. And same with the phone, you can read their tone of voice if you ask them directly, and it just gives you a bit more of a feel and a more, I guess, a personal response to how they feel about your business. So if someone's happy with the service or sad with it, you can tell straight away from the offline side of things as well. So I think while online side is great, also try and encourage some, phone calls and deeper conversations, or even if you're at trade events or networking events, that's another great way to grab feedback in real time as well.
Yep. I think that was a great point about soliciting feedback and doing that in real time. I think that maybe there's a key point is some follow-up after someone has your product or service. And so yeah. I know that when we, launch a new website, I mean, we want to get people trained in that. And then, after they've been able to go back and do some more content editing themselves, and the site's been live, we want to follow up with them and just get some feedback on that. So, being intentional about that ongoing relationship, because again, relationships and ROI, and maintaining that. This is finding out feedback is a great way to stay connected to people. You can do that most clearly and obviously when the product is new to them and they're just kind of getting started with it.
Exactly. Yeah, that's the best time to obviously get your feedback, because that's where you're going to have the most, I guess, teething problems, you like to call it, in the beginning stages. But also, you've actually brought up another great point, and that is when we talk about finding out what customers think, it's not just in that launch phase of your business. I think it should be throughout the process of that purchase. So it's either before they purchase, so what do they think, or what's going to help them make the decision; during the sale, so as soon as they bought something, so what's the experience going to be once they purchase? Do they receive a email, a voucher code, a message from you, the business owner? And obviously afterwards, so how they found using your product or service, what do they think could be improved? And the reason you get this feedback is because if it's something they've enjoyed, that then transfers into a testimonial, and that testimonial then leads to trust, because other people see that, John's enjoyed the experience of purchasing Tab site for his business and he's got great engagement. Now other people that are similar to him in his friends list want to find out exactly what Tab site is or what the tool does. So again, that testimonial, your feedback is your strongest testimonial in that sense. And lastly, on that point, that includes embracing negative feedback. And what would you say your view is on negative feedback then, Mike, in terms of how would you approach it on social, and how would you use it as a customer feedback point, from a customer feedback standpoint?
Oh, I mean, it's feedback. So you have to take negative input and really evaluate it. It can be challenging just because, somebody can be kind of explosive with you. But I think that you always have to say, what is a nugget? What is an element of truth that I might be able to pull out of this, and try to evaluate that? But I think that on social, you need to be ready to respond to social criticism and negative feedback. I think that the sites that have gotten in trouble are ones that number one, ignore it, or number two, fight back. The key is, to acknowledge it and to leave it public to begin with, and to say, hey, I'm sorry to hear this, and wondering if there's a way we can help out. Try to find out more information. I usually try to acknowledge it and see if we can then take it offline, off social, to another channel. So, can I follow up with you? Okay, I've got your name, so I'll look up your account and follow up with you, or, some of that type of information. So I think that it's important to acknowledge it, see if there's some truth with it, and but with negative feedback online, to try to move it to another channel then, so that you can respond to them.
Yeah, I think that's a good point. Take the conversation offline in those negative instances, because social communication, so like when you're communicating with companies on social, every single message is public. So that means that whether it's good, bad, happy, sad, whatever the feedback may be, you're guaranteed that other followers are going to take notice and see what your customers, or what you're saying to your customers. So taking negative feedback offline just helps you to reduce the risk of that negative sentiment spreading over to their followers or others getting involved, and maybe the situation escalates. I think that's great advice, to take the conversation offline as well.
One more area to maybe discuss here about finding out what your customer is really thinking, that is the third-party review sites. Okay, so these are sites that you're not posting. It's not on your site, and it's some type of third party. I think of, even maybe you sell product on Amazon, and so some of those Amazon reviews, that's kind of that's a third party piece there. Consumer Reports, TripAdvisor, there's lots of those that can come out. So again, it depends on the industry what those might be. But what do you think about third party reviews?
Yeah, I think it's a very interesting one, because online reviews work a lot differently compared to a customer commenting, saying they might not like your product or service, or they might give it 2 out of 5 stars. Online reviews, most of the time, if it's websites like Amazon or TripAdvisor, you have the advantage of responding as the brand. But on other sites like iTunes and podcasting, you don't have that luxury. So I would say in these situations, it's very important for the business owners to be transparent. So if the feedback's negative, I always say the customer isn't always right, but you must always respect their opinion. And what that means is, if they don't like your podcast or show, that is their personal opinion, which they're entitled to. Not everyone has to enjoy, the kind of content you put out. But as a business owner, you can then dive in to find out why they didn't like it or what they didn't like. And again, that ties into finding, customer feedback and finding out what they think. So I think take it on board. I know it's not easy, because even the best of us, if we have a negative tweet or mention, we take it personally, whether we want to admit it or not. Even famous musicians with millions of followers, that one person says their album wasn't good, and that's the thing that's going to stick with them. So it happens in the world of business, but for us in business, you just need to take it on board and find out what you can do differently. If it's the fact that they simply just don't like what you do and what you put out, then you can obviously take that on board, because you will get those kind of haters or troll style people leaving these type of reviews that maybe haven't even experienced your full business, or don't know what you're about, or don't know why you've done something. So I think go through the feedback and kind of pick your moments with how you deal with it. But I think transparency is going to be what they're looking for. So just opening up to what they have to say. Yeah,
no, some good points there. I know that we need to wind down here, but a final human element to this is that I think it can be difficult, challenging to receive feedback that is not given in a helpful manner, but to not discount it because there could be some elements of truth to it. I think that's been some of my most challenging encounters, is that when there's a customer that was upset, they didn't think the product worked the way it should, the website had this and it shouldn't have done that. And when they're in kind of attack mode, it's very hard to receive all that, because you feel the attack. Now if you have enough inner fortitude and inner strength to kind of absorb that, not let it necessarily impact you, but then to be able to break that down and find some of the elements of what is really truth in that can be, very valuable in that situation. What do you think?
Exactly. I think, yeah, I think that's it. Yeah, exactly. So that situation is going to be difficult to acknowledge negative feedback from that point of view, but obviously you want to make sure you take it on board, because ignoring it is only going to make it worse. So I just seen Anna joined us. Hey, Anna, how's it going? You just joined us at the right end of our Blab. But so I think that transparency, going through those negative comments, and like you said, even though it is difficult, it's important to acknowledge the negative side as well as the positive.
Well, I'm curious, maybe you want to sum up again for us, Ravi, and that is, why is this important? Why is it important to find out what your customers really think? How does that help a business long term?
Sure. So I would sum it up as, we all know without your customers, you wouldn't have a business, but the secret actually relies in knowing how to move your business forward and ensuring your customers actually enjoy engaging with your business, but not only that, meeting their expectations. So what your customers might like about your business today, they won't like tomorrow, next week, or next month. So why customer feedback is important is because if you, as a business, if you listen to that feedback, it allows you to stay ahead and keep up momentum with what your customers want. And therefore, you're going to realize your business will continue to succeed as it knows what they want and allows them to push forward. So I think listening to feedback will help you grow in the future, because you've helped meet the demand as you've gone through, compared to just sticking to one train of thought, which obviously could time out, during that time that you're dealing with your customers.
Yep. All right, folks, I think we want to wind down then on this Relationships and ROI Blabcast today with Ravi and I. Want to thank you for joining us, and let's see, we're going to be at the same time, same place next week. Let's see, I don't have that link ready, but we'll make sure we get that out to you. So definitely follow us. Ravi, why don't you put your Twitter handle in there as well? Again, just quick, and that way people following you will be able to see that tweet come out, and they'll be able to follow it, where we're at. But we're going to keep going with these type of topics, how to find out what your customers are really thinking. And we appreciate you being with us today. Ravi, you want to say any final words?
Yeah, sure. In true customer feedback, or finding out what your customers really want, whether you're tuning into this live or whether you're tuning it into a replay, feel free to tweet myself and Mike and really share your thoughts and what you think about our topics and what you think about our Blabs. As we can at the same time take that feedback on board, like we've talked about, and we will use that to create future conversations that you guys want. So again, follow us up here on Blab, and make sure you watch out, as it's going to be a weekly segment at the same time every Tuesday.
All right. Thank you, guys, and over and out. Take care.
Have a great evening, guys. Take care.